We are here, and it is right now. It is the UFC 318 Fight IQ preview show where we break down every fight on a big 14 fight slate, highlighted, of course, between the trilogy and the farewell fight of a legend of the sport, Dustin Poirier. It is Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, and I believe technically it's for the BMF title, but we don't have to focus on that too much. But it is the Fight IQ preview show. We break down everything here from DraftKings to betting, and anybody wants to throw anything else in, a little bit of prize picks maybe. And again, we will break down everything on the slate. My name is Chris, and I'll be the host taking you through. And I do have two co-hosts, but one is a little different. We got no late cancellations on this card, but one on our little panel here, as Joe pulled up a little late. But we do have Joey T filling in, and we certainly appreciate it, sir. So why don't we just start with you? How do you see this card? As I said, 14 fights on the slate. And I do want to get both of your thoughts on this because, a little bit sketchy when it comes to the dogs that we might be picking. So how are you approaching this slate, and how do you approach it when you really just want to curl up with all the favorites here?
It could be that type of card with favorites, but you're going to have to get creative and, hope for some dogs coming through. And I do think there are some live dogs and throughout the card that we can definitely attack when we get up to each fight. And how I honestly feel about the card, just two words: pure violence.
Yeah, pure violence, despite maybe the weakest co-main event we've ever seen on the pay-per-view card. I mean, this I always try to use superlatives when I'm writing to sort of introduce it, and I had my share for the main event, and I was like, oh yeah, and also a middleweight fight. What else was I going to say? There's no real relevance to it, but there are intriguing plays on the card nonetheless. And for more on it, we will go to Drake. Drake, how you see in this card?
I wrote up my article, and I didn't look at any of the odds before I finished it. I usually go through it all, and then I see, what dogs I'm on. Well, it's not to jump ahead here, but I wasn't on any dogs, so that's usually not a good sign.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and it was one of those things for me when I was writing my article as well. Like I don't want to say I forced any dogs in, but I definitely I would pick a dog, but then I would say, hey, but make sure you look out for the favorite too, because I knew I had to highlight a couple, so it was one of those. But we will get to it. But right before we do that, I just want to say that if you do want to check out all of the content on RotoWire, baseball's kicking back up. Football is just starting. All of our content, optimizers, all that good stuff. Promo code YouTube15. That's YouTube15 at checkout. 15% off any RotoWire subscription. But for now, we are going to go ahead and jump right into the card as I struggle to keep my head in frame here. And it is Carly Giudice at 9,100 taking on Nicole Cagliari at 7,100. Line on this fight: Giudice minus 430, Cagliari plus 330. And I'm going to get into it quickly here. I mentioned having to stick with some dogs, and I think this is a decent formula for a dog. I mean, I've always liked Carly Giudice. I liked her coming off the Contender Series. Good boxer, nice footwork. She's got a little bit of power, more than her knockout record prior to her last fight with Suggest, and then she proved it. But, I do think this is kind of the formula. You have a very juiced up favorite, someone who only has 6 professional MMA fights. And as much as I like her, Cagliari, I think, has a good strategy, at least for DraftKings, certainly, but I think for fighting generally, where she's just going to stay in your face. She's going to try to get takedowns. She's powerful. She's athletic. And I like that. I think she scored, what was it? Was it 53 in the loss? It was 52 points in the loss to Karikate. She's small for this division, so she's always going to have that kind of height and reach advantage. But she had an even larger one, at least in terms of height, I believe, for Karikate, and she did pretty well. Lost that one by split decision. So I think you can really look at Cagliari here to do some things. She doesn't move her head, and Giudice, like I said, does have power. So a knockout could be coming. but for DraftKings, and there's a lot of favorites here, and there's going to be a lot that we like coming up. So if you want to save some money, I really think you could do worse than Cagliari here kicking off the card. But we will see what the boys think, and we will turn to our guest first. Joey, how do you see the curtain jerker here?
I think this is a sleeper GPP fight here. Judice, only reason I say this because even I think if Judice goes to decision and she just pieces up Cagliari, which there's a chance of doing so, she throws volume and significant strikes for days, and with the overall strikes that she throws, she scores real well just striking. So if Cagliari's going to be a punching dummy for 3 rounds, Judice could definitely pay off, be one of the lower-owned options for a GPP. But to me, I'm feeling more of it's a dog or pass. I'm actually going to be picking Cagliari. Yeah. You really haven't seen Judice takedown defense really fully tested. I'm not going to say nothing about that Dubin fight because everyone and their mama thought, oh, Dubin, great dog. Yeah, you saw what the hell happened. Yeah, I think if she can chain takedowns, her takedown prop is at 1.5 minus 115. So that's a decent look right there if you want to go with that. It's going to be having takedowns and control. And I do feel there's a superior grappler advantage for Cagliari. And her sub props plus 1,100. She's a superior grappler. So I think she could potentially look for a club and sub. So I'm going to go with the dog.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. And that is a very juiced up sub prop. I actually think Judice is okay on the ground, but I do agree that she probably will get a little lost if she has to scramble for any length of time with Cagliari. But Drake is staring off into space, so I wonder what that means. Drake, how do you see this fight?
Drake disagrees. I think Judice is one of the sneakiest plays on the slate. Give her to me at 9,100 with all those high guys up there. You can compare Cagliari to Gabriela Fernandez, and I would venture to say that Fernandez is the better grappler of those two, and Judice did just fine against her. Not to mention the fact that she also had two takedowns in a minute of control time against Gabriela. So I absolutely love Judice in this fight, especially for the first fight of the night. I think she just tears her up, and I can easily see another knockout.
Yeah, I think a knockout is definitely on the table, but like I said, a fighter with not a lot of experience, show me somebody who gets in their face and let me see how they deal with it. I think, especially at 7,100. At 7,100 is.
I wouldn't really say 11 fights compared to 6 is that much more experience.
It's not more is more. Five fights could be a few years the way fighters fight nowadays, especially if you're already a pro. Like if we were talking about like amateur fights or like just getting started, maybe. But if you're 11 fights in, I tend to think you probably fight on a more regular schedule, and plus training more often, most likely, and et cetera, et cetera. Or I'm sorry, training longer, and et cetera, et cetera. So, we'll see how it goes. I just tend to think that she's probably never seen a style like this, and so we'll see how it plays out. But right now, we are going to move on to the next fight of the night, and it is Bruno Ferreira at 9,700, stacked up there, against Jackson McVeigh all the way down in the dirt at 6,500. Line on this fight, Ferreira minus 600, Jackson McVeigh plus 425. If the name Jackson McVeigh sounds familiar, it's because he was going to have a short notice fight a few weeks ago, and then Christopher Ewart had to get pulled from the card for not making weight. I said at the time that I didn't really see a lot in Jackson McVeigh. I thought he was kind of a size bully for the regional scene, and he just kind of, muscles up on these guys. He's going to have a height and reach advantage here too, but Bruno Ferreira is just going to be way more powerful, explosive on the feet. If it goes to the ground, maybe McVeigh has a chance, although I kind of think that's dubious too. It would be his best chance, I'll say that, but that's kind of a low bar, thinking about what Ferreira would do to him on the feet. 9,700, it's a pretty penny to spend. 14 fight slate. We have a lot of fights to look at here. But could he get the 60-second? Could he get a couple of takedowns and then a knockout? It's possible. And then the first round knockout, and then he makes his salary. So I still think there's room for Ferreira as a GPP play at 9,700. Understand if you want to be a little cautious, but unless McVeigh catches him in some leg lock or something, I don't think he has much much of a chance here. So Ferreira all the way. We'll see what the boys think, and I don't think there's going to be too much disagreement here, but they always tend to surprise me. Drake, how you feel about this fight?
You're muted, buddy.
I won't go into it too much because I know Joey's got a bit of a take on this fight. This is almost an unfair fight for McVeigh. He went from a guy that he could beat to a guy that he should get completely demolished by.
Yeah.
Bruno's 9,700 for a reason. I mean, more than likely, I'd say it's probably like a 75% chance this fight ends in the first round. And, who knows how many points Bruno's going to rack up in that time. It could be, a takedown, it could be, or a knockdown. It could be 2 knockdowns. It could be a 60-second bonus. It's really hard to say. I do think he's got a fair chance to hit value at 97. It's just, being able to find the dogs and the salary to get him into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I am interested to hear this take. I wonder what could be said about a fight this wide. But
it's
Joey,
not a bad one. It's just what you said about the whole ground thing with McVeigh.
Yeah. Okay, so I saw the weigh-ins, face-off. Yeah, he does look like an overall tower bully. And could Ferreira go and just throw an overpunch, knock him out one shot? Very possible. But I think he's going to try to make this easier, especially if he can't really reach a chin. Dude's tall as hell. I think the takedowns are going to be there at will with no problem. He should be able to just pick them up, hawk them, smash them down. Then I think he's live for a submission. Because I have a feeling that Bruno's going to lay some ground and pound. This big, giant dummy is going to try to get up. And knowing if Ferreira sees the back, he's probably going to throw his hooks in and probably get some sort of rear naked choke. So his 2 props I actually really love for this fight is his half a takedown at plus 120. And unless you're one of those guys you want to be safe, cool. You want to pay minus 500 for inside the distance? Yuck. I'm not doing that. I'm good. But his submission props plus 200. And that's the 2 props I'm probably going to play for this fight.
I like it. The only slight thing I would say about, I think if this goes to the ground, McVeigh's more likely to play off his back than he is to try to get back to his feet. But if he's laying down the ground and pound and he's about to get knocked out, which could happen, definitely see it there for sure. So interesting little play there. And thank you for making something interesting out of that fight because me and Drake could not do that. But we will move to a bit of contention in this one as we came on the air here. But it is Ryan Spann at 8,700 taking on Lukasz Brzeski at 7,500. Line on this fight, minus 250 Ryan Spann, plus 210 Lukasz Brzeski. And I'm glad I get to go first to say that I was always a big Ryan Spann booster ever since he came in. He had decent boxing when he first started. He was really big for light heavyweight. He's an athletic guy. He's a brilliant jiu-jitsu black belt, I believe. So you put all that together in a heavier weight class, and you think to yourself, man, this guy should be on fire. But the more that we watch him and the loss to Paulo Costa, he just doesn't like to fight, and it's very evident. The second he gets touched, he always has a little bit of success early, and the second he gets touched, he just sort of spirals out of control, throwing huge haymakers, forcing takedowns that he's never going to get just because he's way too obsessed with getting them, and there's no technique involved. And I just can't do it. Lukasz Brzeski, Joe, who is not here, but we will reference him, always like to say a guy who fights for your money, and that's Lukasz Brzeski, no matter what you want to say about him. He had a really good fight against Walter Walker where he came back from a lot of takedowns, had to get back to his feet really quickly. He's nice and long for the division. He can throw long punches. And Spann can knock him out, obviously. I mean, that would be the case even if he was just a standard heavyweight. But Spann's got a lot of power. We know that. I just can't trust him to do anything unless he knocks him out with the first punch he throws. I just can't trust Spann to do anything. I don't think he's a guy who likes to fight. And if it's a guy like that, you're better off putting your money elsewhere. This is a card where we need dogs. And I'll take. And look, it's not like either of these guys have been doing well in their past fights. This is like the battle of the losers club. We have Bresky, who lost 4 out of his last 5. I believe Spawn is the same. Let me check. Yeah, 4 out of his last 5. So they both have not been doing well. And if that's the case, with all the added context, I'm just going to take Bresky here. And I know I'm going to let Drake stew a little bit. And we're going to go to Joey first. Joey, how do you see this fight?
There's a very good chance I'm just going to fade this fight as a whole. Yeah, Bresky's been getting his ass kicked for the most part in the UFC, getting finished. Paulo Costa made him look bad. And so 2 things I think happened. One thing I noticed from the Costa fight, he took his time in round 1. He was low volume. He was fine clinching up against the cage, holding your fighter down. Not even going for takedowns, just winning on cage control. If he could maybe do that similar to Bresky. If you don't go for the hips for Bresky, I don't think you're going to take him down. If you try to upper body him, I don't see it happening. So Spann could look for potential clinch work against the cage for just to try to tire out Bresky. The over 1.5's a sneaky play. You can get that at plus money at plus 150. He showed it in the Costa fight. Now he's going against a guy that might go match his slow pace. I think the over could look live, but I do got Spann. Sooner or later, Bresky's is going to walk into a shot, or Spann's going to get that one takedown. It's like, hey, you should have done that round 1 maybe. And I think he's going to get him out of there inside the distance. So
certainly possible. When you talk about the Wallow fight, by the end, he was okay at points in round 1. By the end of round 1, he was out of the fight. Like before round 2 started, I knew that my pick was pretty much over there. But anyway, we will move on to the next fight now, which is oh, wait a minute. No, that's right. Drake still has to go and tell us his thoughts. Drake, how do you see this fight?
And you can say you can bring up the whole they've lost 4 in the last 5, but the level of competition there is way different. Spann's competition is far better than Bresky has faced, and it's not even close. I mean, if it was just about anybody else in the division, I would absolutely agree with you, because I don't think I think Spann is fighting more just for paychecks now. Yeah. But Bresky just ain't it, man. Bresky is a freaking terrible fighter.
Okay, but
all I can say about it.
But you want to talk about losses and competition, and that's fine. But what win does Spawn have that's better than Walter Walker right now?
I'd say the fight against Kutalaba is a better win than any win on his record. Any of them. Same with Dominic Reyes.
Okay, but how far? Okay. Right. Well, yeah. The Reyes one is aging better now, and so it's
only 3 years ago. It's not like it was that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Spawn is in a much different place.
Oh, and he is. I mean, he's fighting he's fighting at heavyweight now, and I'm sure that he's slightly more trained for it. It's just, like I said, I just don't think that Bresky is a UFC caliber fighter, and Spann may not be anymore either. It's hard to say, but Bresky's just terrible.
I understand. Look, I'm not going to be waving the Bresky flag for many fighters. I just think that in a battle of the losers club here, why not take the dog?
Because I have a dog that I'd prefer to take in a few fights.
All right. Well, there's the little tease, and we will we'll certainly get to that. But so this will be an interesting one for the DMs for sure. I'm sure I will hear it if it ends up not going that way. But we'll move on to a fight I believe we agree on, maybe with some qualifiers. It is Jimmy Crute at 9,000 taking on Marcin Prachnio at 7,200. Line on this fight is I just closed the thing. 1 second. All right, line on the fight is minus 335 Jimmy Crute, plus 275 Marcin Prachnio. And it's not that I don't like Jimmy Crute here. I don't like him as much as some people on this panel maybe like him, but I do think that Jimmy Crute as a one-round fighter is pretty good. His performance against was it Petrino or am I thinking of a different fight? No, Bellato, Rodolfo Bellato.
Yeah, Bellato, where it went to a draw.
Where it went to a draw, where he gassed out hard after a very dominant first round, and then it went to a draw. The reason why I'm picking Jimmy Crute here is because I think he's a really good jiu-jitsu player, and if he gets Prachnio down, and he should, a 50% takedown defense rate, I think it's going to end in a sub right there. And if it doesn't, I don't think Crute's going to have to work very hard to keep top position. So that's why I'm picking Jimmy Crute. If Prachnio can extend the fight, then he will probably win because Crute can get tired again, and when he does, those takedowns are going to be very labored. Those shots are going to be very labored, and if Prachnio can do one thing, it is kickbox. So if he is able to do that, especially in front of a tired Jimmy Crute, that could be something. But ultimately, I got to take Jimmy Crute here. He could smash this salary at $9,000 if he finishes in the first round, which I think is his most likely path to victory here. But we will start with the boys first, and it's Drake. Drake, how you see his fight?
So if you go back and because he was on another pay-per-view card, so we talked about that fight, and I went into the mental health issues and layoff and everything that he had going on, and I was super happy to see him back, and I still think that he won that fight. I don't think that it was a draw. I really don't. I think Crute, as he continues to fight, he'll build his cardio back up. He may still get tired in round 3, but I think he'll be a solid for 2 rounds. It's really hard to say, especially with these guys that are bigger. But like you mentioned, the whole takedown defense, Prachnio is just not good on the mat, like whatsoever. So the second this gets taken down, it shouldn't take long for Crute to wrap this up and call it a day.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if there wasn't that quite as big a discrepancy on the mat, I think I might be tempted to pick this fight another way. But since there is, definitely going with Crute here. Joey, how about you? How do you see this fight?
If you guys want to save money, because I'm gonna say this is not crazy, you can parlay Crute. Even though take everything that he's just been looking at the past fights, one takedown wins this fight. I will say that right now. One takedown could win this fight. I'm going Crute. His inside the distance prop's a good one at -135. If you like, what if he grows to pounds? Hey, it covers both. So -135 is a good line.
Yeah.
Jimmy Crute in round 1 by itself is +250. So it covers either method also.
Yeah, no, that's good. Absolutely. I always like these props, and they're especially good in fights like this where we have a lot of big favorites, and maybe you're not exactly sure how to play it, and you don't want to lay all that chalk, certainly. So definitely appreciate the props there. That's definitely a good thing. But for right now, we are going to move on to our next fight here, and it is Islam Dulatov at 9,600, taking on Adam Fugit at 6,600. Line on this fight is -700 Dulatov, +500 Adam Fugit, and another fight that we mentioned right on time where we have a really big favorite here. Dulatov, of course, making his UFC debut after a Contender Series fight. A big, rangy guy, powerful, likes to do a lot of work in the clinch, rough his opponents up. Fugit, I think, is a decent fighter, but fights at a little too slow of a pace here. I expect Dulatov is just going to sort of overwhelm him. Could hit his value here, but again, it's going to be really hard to get somebody like Fair and Dulatov into the same lineup unless you want to mess around with some of these dogs under 7,000. We got at least one more coming up later, or the Cagliari that we mentioned earlier. But I do think Dulatov wins. I was never that high on Adam Fugit to begin with, and Dulatov looks like a decent prospect, at least decent enough to just run through here. Fugit's a guy who's been knocked out before, and I see Dulatov kind of just steamrolling. So my pick, of course, is Dulatov. We will see what the boys think. Joey T, how do you see this fight?
So Dulatov's just like one of the better German prospects coming out. He ran through Dana White. I've been waiting for this debut for a while. I'll say this. If Fugit wants any chance, don't stand with him. You have decent wrestling. Attempt it. Try it. But this is where I think Fugit's going to mess up. Dulatov's also a sneaky grappler, and if Fugit really does come in with a bad attempt entry, I think he's going to gilly him, and it's going to make him look easy, and I think Fugit's a jobber, ideally, when it comes to in the UFC, and I think he's going to walk into either a counterpunch, but more likely I think he's going to try to attempt a takedown, and he's going to get subbed.
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way. We talked about maybe a guy using his size as sort of a cudgel on the regional scene. This one I think is a guy who's a decent prospect who is going to just sort of run through his opponent here. But Drake, how do you see this fight?
So I do have Dulatov winning, but this is that fight that I mentioned a couple fights ago where I said the dog is in play, and there's a few reasons that I feel that way. One, Fugit has the UFC experience. Dulatov, I mean, if you go and look at his record, there's nothing really that fancy on it. He hasn't really fought anybody. And I'm not saying that, Fugit's, some godly fighter, because we all know that he's not, but he's also not terrible. The other thing that worries me is Dulatov. They were supposed to fight whenever the hell it was, but Dulatov pulled out due to a serious injury. That serious injury was never disclosed. So we have no idea what it was. We don't actually know the actual reason that he pulled out of the fight. All that was said is that it was a serious injury and now he's back and, better. But the problem with that is if you don't know what it is, you have no idea what can happen in the ring. If it was a back injury, an arm injury, shoulder, knee, whatever it is, it could be a number of problems. So I really think that Fugit is live in this fight. And I will probably use him in DFS.
Yeah, no, it's a good note about the injury for sure. And like we said, a lot of big favorites on this card. So you need to get these guys in, and Fugit will certainly help you get the favorites in where you want them. So definitely a good note there, and one to watch, and maybe get some more Fugits in your lineup if you weren't going to get them before. But we will move on now to our next fight, and it is it is Ateba Gauthier at 9,400 taking on Robert Valentin at 6,800. Line on this fight is Gauthier at minus 560, Valentin plus 410. Getting a lot of these big favorite fights in a row. And this one I don't think we're going to have any sort of nuanced opinion about. Valentin just doesn't strike me as a fighter who's going to do much. He'll strike a little bit, but he likes to sort of find his tie-ups and look for submissions. He's going to have to do that against Gauthier because if he doesn't, he's going to sleep very quickly. But he's not the best wrestler, and I don't expect him to pull a Volter Walker and just sort of find a leg somewhere from a standing position. I don't think he's that kind of submission grappler. So I think Gauthier is just going to knock him out. I think that's the most likely way this ends in an overwhelming fashion. So I have Gauthier here again. A big salary, not quite as big as the ones we've seen, but maybe coming off Fugit if you like a guy like Gauthier. That is one to pick to get Gauthier and maybe some others in the lineup. But we will see if the boys have any nuance on this one. Joey, how you see this fight?
So I call this Gauthier kid Baby Francis. He touches clean, you go to sleep. As simple as that. Night, no pillow. But if you look at his record too, who's he beating? We still have question marks about his grappling. Everyone said, "Oh, he trained with Frank Mir for a little bit." Look, you're coming from a scene where you knock people out. One thing I could definitely say, Valentine, if he gets a hold of him, what does this kid going to look like off his back? Like, I forget who the big favorite kid has a flyweight fight. Young prospect. He got clipped, taken down, and got submitted and put to sleep. It was a flyweight fight where he lost to like a 37, 38-year-old guy. And
I think I know who you mean.
Yeah.
But I have to look at the name. I actually think I recommended him for like a sub prop. It was like 130 or it was like 1,300 or something, but I forget his name now. But I do know what you mean. Yeah.
So that fight could look like this one. If he does have no takedown defense, Valentin could snatch a submission quicker than anything. So GPPs, Valentin, but realistically, how I'm probably seeing the fight, Gauthier round one knockouts at plus 150.
Yeah, it is live. I mean, I did say when Valentin just first came on, I kind of likened him to Paul Craig in the way that he would just try to snatch things as opposed to sort of wrestle. And Paul Craig has worked on his wrestling. It hasn't really gotten much better, but he does try at it now. But Valentin, I don't think is much of a wrestler, so that's why I'm not putting too much stock in that. But if he does get a hold of him, you're right, Joey. it could be very bad for our knockout artist here. So definitely something to consider. But we will see what Drake thinks. Drake, are you going for the flash sub, or are you just leaning towards a knockout?
Give me the Sambo style fighter.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean, it is always hard to go with a guy that really hasn't been tested. But you watch how clean his striking is and his footwork, and it tells me that he's prepared to defend takedowns, at least for the most part. And I mean, he's probably not going to be an easy guy to take down. The dude is strong as hell. So you're probably looking at trips, and when you're going against a Sambo fighter, it becomes much harder to do those. So I don't know. I don't think that Valentine's going to last long in the UFC. This is probably going to be Gautier, round one TKO and good night.
Yeah, no, I agree. This one it might be a little different because there is a definite path. I just don't know how wide that path is going to be for him to walk on. But we will see how that one plays out. But for right now, we're going to move on to the next fight, which is, let's see, it is Francisco Prado at 8,300, taking on Nikolai Vertenikov at 7,900. Line on this fight is Prado minus 150, Vertenikov plus 130. I've been a big Francisco Prado booster, especially towards the bottom of the division here. I think these are the kind of fights that he's really going to revel in, where he can just apply his pressure, throw the big strikes. If he wants to go for a takedown, he can, but otherwise just pour on the power and the pressure. Vertenikov is very deliberate, very slow, very not aggressive in the cage. And if he yields to Prado like that, I just think it's going to be trouble. So I'm pretty big on Prado here, and we've been focusing on a lot of big salaries that have come for us, but this is one where a guy right in the middle here, I think, has an option to put up, at least relatively for his salary, a big score. 88, 90, 91, even without a finish, I think is pretty feasible. So I like Prado quite a bit here at this salary. We will see what the boys think, and we'll start with Drake this time. How you see this much closer line fight?
I'm not going to take anybody that lost to Austin Vanderford.
And lost badly and convincingly too.
Yeah, terribly. Like, it was bad.
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat that you are. I actually really like Francisco Prado as a fighter. I think he's very he's a very precise fighter. His striking is very crisp. It's been rough watching him lose the fights that he's lost, because they're actually a lot closer than the strikes and things would indicate. I think he's only a camp or two from being really, really good. And, who knows, this fight could be the one that makes him kind of take off. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think that he finishes him, and I think this could be a good jumpstart for him.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a fighter I like to watch, and we'll see if this is the jumping off point. Definitely could be. Joey, what about you? How do you see this fight?
I wish Prado would go down to 155. I think that's where his potential weight will be. But as Drake said, are you picking someone that lost to Austin Vanderford? But guess what? I had money in Austin that fight. I was like, Drake, I just bet Austin. He's like, I cashed pretty good on that one. But
yeah.
So yeah, I think if there is a finish, I think it's coming from Prado. If it's like a close, boring decision, it's probably from Nikolai, probably out-muscling him, holding him. And Prado is hittable. He really keeps his head too straight. He gets hit by jabs. And
yeah,
if it's a close, slow, boring fight, it's probably from Nikolai just being boring and trying to be the stronger fighter. But Prado's the one for DFS. That's the preferred play I would get to. You can maybe look inside the distance. You probably get some plus money on that, because I think he can land on the feet, or one little sloppy takedown attempt, he's the better grappler. So that's always live. So inside the distance is probably a good play if you feel like he's the one that's going to pop off and win.
It's a curious thing that you brought up the 155, 170 thing, because this was only his second fight at 170. He was at 155. That's where he had 4 title defenses, or what it was, on Samurai. That's what he fought at, and I assume that he is now staying at 170 because of that weight cut. I think he's just put on too much muscle mass in order to make that cut. But it is an interesting thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I do agree. I do agree with you, Joey, that I think Prado has this covered pretty much everywhere it goes. So Prado, I think, really looking good at that low 8,000 salary there. But right now we're going to move on, and it is Vinicius Oliveira, 8,500, Kyler Phillips, 7,700, and this looks like the
Go back or
exact.
fight.
Huh? Did I
Go
miss
back or
one?
fight.
Oh no! What did I miss?
Vittori and Allen.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry about that. It is actually Brandon Allen. I saw Joey doing the thing. I just thought he had a very strong take. It was Brendan Allen at 8,800 taking on Marvin Vittori at 7,400. Line on this fight is Allen minus 185, Vittori plus 160. And Allen is the kind of guy, especially in the mid 8,000 salary, I think you want to play on DraftKings. He's just a very aggressive fighter, aggressive grappler. He's going to come forward. He's going to get his offense going. And Vittori, I think, pretty much in his last few fights, but especially in the last fight against Delice, really just sort of held back, especially early, and let Delice get ahead in that fight. And if he does the same thing against Brendan Allen, it's going to go really badly for him. We know he's a powerful boxer. We know he's difficult to knock out. We know he's very tough. That could just mean that Brendan Allen sort of has a field day, going to a decision, high dollar decision, scoring maybe 93, 95 points. I wouldn't doubt it with a couple takedowns thrown in. I like Allen here a lot. I don't think that Vittori, he's a good boxer. He's good enough to stay in all these fights. He doesn't really show initiative to finish. He doesn't really show initiative to sort of take the front foot on these fights, like I said, especially lately. And for that reason, especially against this opponent, I can't pick it. I got to go Allen here as the favorite once again. We will go to the boys. It is Joey T. Joey, how do you see this fight?
I'm evading this fight for DFS on both sides.
Yeah.
Vittori is not easy to take down, and I think that's where, if it is going to the ground, Brendan Allen is the superior grappler, but Vittori has good takedown defense. Brendan Allen does get hit. Vittori throws decent volume. He's probably not going to knock out Brendan Allen, but it could be like just hitting jabs with 1-2s and trying to circle away. But I will say this, and this is the reason why my pick switched. I was on Vittori. I'm on Allen now. I think Vittori's going to have to either go belt to ass or absolutely say, hey, judges, I'm taking out of the picture. Brandon Allen's from Louisiana. If this is a close fight and it goes to a split decision, I hardly doubt they're going against Brandon Allen. So I think it's a fight I'm going to evade, but my pick's Allen.
Yeah, that's a good note. I mean, I know that the judges, mess up quite a bit, but I still have a hard time, judging fights off. I understand why you might, but it's a sad state of affairs in MMA. I will say that much. But Drake, we'll go to you now. Drake, how you seeing this one?
I'm kind of in Joey's boat. I don't like this one as much for DFS, only because Allen has kind of fallen in love with his hands a little bit, and it worries me because it could just turn into a slow striking fest. Neither one of them are super high volume. I mean, they could turn it into that for sure. Vittori was taken down 4 times by Cannonier. He was more picked up and thrown down, but Allen he's a wizard on the mat. If he does take it down, I'd love to see it because I think that he could submit Vittori. It's just one of those things that for me, this fight's almost pure GPP. Allen could break the slate theoretically. He could chain takedowns and then get a submission 1 and 2, and he could score 120, 30 points. It's just hard to say. So I am on Allen. I do think he's better everywhere in this fight. It's just whether or not you think that it's going to be full of action or really boring.
Yeah, no, and I'm kind of in the former camp. I actually do think Allen could be a sort of a boon for the slate, kind of break the slate, just because I think he's always going to be coming forward. I do think he's going to get those takedowns when he tries for them. Maybe not initially. Maybe, the sort of first order takedowns defense will go well, but as he tries, I think he will sort of break Vittori down and get into the mat. So I kind of do see this as a bigger score and maybe something to consider if you're looking for maybe a favorite that people aren't on and who could put up a lot of points. I do think Allen is that guy, but we will see how that plays. And we're moving on to the main card now, the pay-per-view card, as it were. It is Daniel Zellhuber at 9,500, taking on Michael Johnson, 6,700.
Nope. Now you missed.
Again, I missed it. Oh no!
I'm about to fire you.
You know what? There's too many fights on this card. It's all blending together. You're right, and so we're not on the pay-per-view card yet. My apologies. It is Vinicius Oliveira at 8,500, taking on Kyler Phillips at 7,700, the one that I mistakenly referenced earlier. Line on this fight is Vinicius Oliveira minus 140, plus 120 for Kyler Phillips, and what I was about to say earlier was I think this is the exact wrong kind of opponent for Kyler Phillips to look good against. Just the guy who needs to get his wrestling going, and Oliveira being this really strong, aggressive, and power and skilled grappler in his own right. Oliveira is sort of made a living in the UFC thus far by, getting absorbing his opponent's offense and coming back when they get tired. And I think he could do that against Kyler Phillips too. Kyler Phillips kind of had that trajectory in his last fight against Rob Font there, where he had his takedowns going early. He was doing a good job, and then Font just kind of took over as the fight wore on. I think if Font can do that, Vinicius Oliveira certainly can, and I think he will. And Kyler Phillips likes to go backwards a little bit more than he should anyway. It's certainly going to hurt him in this fight. So Vinicius is a guy where I think the bottom has to drop out sooner or later because I don't think his fighting style is sustainable. I just don't think it's going to be here. I like Vinicius. We've seen his last couple of decisions not be so high scoring, and that's only because his opponent was in such control early on. If that's the case here and he pulls out another decision, could be low scoring again. So maybe more of a cash play, but I do like Vinicius Oliveira in this spot. But we will see how the boys see it, and I believe we're going to start with Drake. Drake, how you see it?
I also have Oliveira for everything that you stated and just how dangerous he is. But this is another fight where I think Kyler Phillips is 100% live. If he fights the way he did against Hani Barcelos, I don't think that Oliveira will win this fight. Phillips is really good at controlling. He's very good on the mat, and he does have some power in his hands. The thing that worries me most about Oliveira is how wild he can be at times. And, I took him against Said Nurmagomedov in their last fight. There wasn't a lot of people that were on him. I had him there. He looked great, but I think that stylistically Phillips poses a little more of a challenge because he's slightly more active and free-flowing than Said is. So I think this is a really tight – I think this fight should be a lot closer than the odds indicate. But I'm going Oliveira, but I do think Phillips makes a great dog play.
Yeah, I mean, he does because he's going to get that right. He's going to get that wrestling, and he's going to be active. I just don't know if he can outmuscle Oliveira in the clinch, and he's going to have to do that. So we will see how that plays out. But Joey, what about you? How do you see this fight?
Somehow I always pick against Oliveira. The only time I only picked him was against Sopai. I said, Simon's going to control him, kick his ass. Nope. Then I planted my flag with Said Nurmagomedov. I was like, yeah, he can just hold him. Nope. But I actually get a bad feeling about this fight because this fight's giving me vibes like Peyton Talbot and Lima. Everyone said, Kyle Phillips lost as a big favorite versus Font. Font's a good vet. And I just think that if you look how Vinicius does, he does sometimes start slow, but once he does open up, he opens wild. And Kyler Phillips in a lot of his fights wins round one very well and easy, mixing in strikes with takedowns. And I'm going Kyler Phillips. Like I said, I'm getting this weird Peyton Talbot vibe matchups. Everyone thinking, you lost to Font. Yeah, you're still not a good prospect. You lost to Pava too. Like, Kyler Phillips is no bum. And I think there's going to be a chance. I think he's going to chain takedowns and probably win a control-based decision.
Yeah, I'm just definitely well noted. I'm just a little nervous that kind of plays into the weird kind of Oliveira game to where he wants to just keep getting up and making you tired. And then he's going to be tired too, but you're going to be more tired than him. And he's going to, you're muted. Drake.
Phillips has really good cardio. I'm not worried about that at all. And actually, I think I'm going to switch my pick. I think I'm going to go Phillips.
Let's go.
Fair enough. I think that's the first time Joey has made Drake twist his thumb. I think we've
you heard everything that I said about it. It just yeah.
Well, it was funny because you said you were picking Vinicius, and then all of your thing was like I praising
Phillips. I guess I was just too afraid to take him, but you know what? I need a dog, and I'm going to make it Phillips.
All right, there you go. So we now have two Kyler Phillipses. If you're, I am going to stick with Oliveira. I just think the matchup plays a little too much into Vinicius' hands, but that is a good point about the cardio, and so a lot of good fights to watch and a lot of dogs to take into consideration there. But now I promise we're moving on to the main card. And before we do, by the way, if you're watching, give us a like on YouTube, please. Hit the subscribe button if you like, and the bell for the notifications, all that. It definitely helps us grow the channel. We would definitely appreciate it. But we are definitely going to get to the main pay-per-view card now. It is Daniel Zellhuber at 9,500, taking on Michael the Menace Johnson at 6,700. Line on this fight is minus 650 Zellhuber, plus 475 Michael Johnson. Can't help but think Michael Johnson is being a little disrespected in this spot. Always had fast hands, always a good boxer. Can wrestle a little bit if he feels the need to. Doesn't always, but it doesn't seem to really have been slowed down with any of the tools that he always uses with age. That good footwork. Not very chinny, even though I think some of his recent knockouts stick in our mind. I believe it's only two knockout losses in his career, and that was the crux of it. The Josh Emmett one being the one that we all remember. But I do think that he's got pretty good chin on him. He's certainly got hands. Zellhuber is a good boxer. Uses length well. Uses his size well, but Johnson, I think is live here. I'm gonna give it to Zellhuber just because I think he can kind of wear on him, be a little more active, and that I think has been Johnson's stumbling block in the past, the inactivity. So I'm gonna go Zellhuber. This is one I think I would dog or pass. I don't think Zellhuber is gonna cover the salary. So I'd rather go Johnson. This is going to be if you're looking under 67, if you're looking under 7, I should say. So I'll pick Zellhuber. Certainly not as strong as some of the other big favorites that we've seen on this card, but I will pick him to get it done. And this time though, we're going to start with Joey T to kick off the main card. Joey, how you seeing this fight?
I'm passing on this fight too, but I do agree it's a dog or pass type of matchup. Zellhuber is a good young prospect, and he's looking to get back in the win column after losing to Ribovic, which I believe, Drake, that's who you picked, right? You picked Ribovic over Zellhuber, I believe. So that was a great pick. You got me paid. You too. I got paid for that, so thank you. But no, I think there's a chance where Johnson can make some takedowns. Zellhuber's really never been off his back. Johnson, that's how they first got into the UFC, being an athletic wrestler with decent hands. Now he's a guy that fell in love with his hands, which I think he can still make even that committable because Zellhuber does not move his head. He keeps his head straight. He allows jabs because he's like Mexican strong. They got that type of chin where, okay, you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you. So Johnson could be live, but even in a loss, I think he could maybe give up maybe 45 points if he does throw volume, make some takedowns. But, yeah, below 7K, it's not a bad option.
Yeah, no, that definitely not a bad option at all. Especially, I mean, we keep harping on it over and over again, but 14 fights and a lot of these big favorites, you're going to need to save salary somewhere. And this could be I wouldn't go crazy over it, but throw in a couple of Michael Johnsons, maybe a couple more than you ordinarily would at this price range. But we will see how Drake feels. Drake see this fight.
So Zellhuber is absolutely better on the feet. There's no doubt about that. If you go to the RotoWire DFS tier list, and it's where the salaries are, I pick basically the high, middle, and value tiers that I think fit for the week. I actually have in the value tier, I have both Kyler Phillips and Michael Johnson. So there again, I was on Phillips.
Yeah. Every place but here, you were right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I took Oliveira in the article too. So
right. Yeah.
I guess I'm just gonna have to go edit that. But no, so Michael Johnson is I say this every time he fights. He is the best worst fighter ever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand his game. He could beat anybody and lose to anybody, and it's a talent. For me, I do like things about Johnson in this fight, just given that Zellhuber is very one-dimensional. I would like to see Johnson mix in his wrestling, but either way, I think this goes to a decision, which makes it kind of a bit safer for any type of cash lineup. But generally, just overall, not a fight that I'm rooting for or a fan of.
Yeah, and it's funny when you say about Michael Johnson, because his career bears that out. The win over Tony Ferguson when he was in his prime, the knockout of Dustin Poirier when he was coming.
But then you look at some of his losses, and he's lost trash cans. It just it makes no sense.
Yeah, definitely a curious fighter, and maybe that comes in handy here. Maybe he's well disguised then as the big underdog. Definitely.
No, Chris. I can say some. When you mentioned how Johnson got knocked out by Emmett, I was at that card in Philly. It sounded like a bomb went off once that punch landed.
Oh, yeah.
Even the whole crowd were like, oh, but boom. I was like, oh, my God. And he was winning that fight.
Yeah.
He did a knockout. He's like, you know what? Boom.
Well, he was winning the fight such as it was. I mean, we should note that the fight was very boring.
It was very.
But yeah, Josh Emmett was a guy that I loved forever, just because at one point he had like a 7-fight knockdown streak, which was crazy. So I always loved trying to see him keep it up. But a little diversion there. But I think we're all agreed. Zellhuber has to be the pick, but could definitely do worse than Johnson if you're trying to save a little salary there. But I think some flags are going to be planted in some unusual places. With this fight. Some very
unusual places, right?
Danny Gay at 8,600, taking on Patricio Pitbull Fieri at 7,600. Line on this fight, it is Ige minus 220, Pitbull plus 185, and I'm going to let a certain person tell their side of this later, but I am going to say, look, I love Pitbull. I want these Bellator legends to come in here and do well, just because I hate that thing of like, oh, the Bellator guys suck that you get from all the. I mean, they all come here past their prime, and it's not fair to them, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so I am rooting for Pitbull, but I think Danny Ige, I think, is sort of an unheralded, underrated fighter. He's got really good boxing. He's very quick. He's got good footwork. And that's just a terrible matchup for Pitbull at this point in his career. I think Pitbull's going to try to stand on the napkin. He's going to try to throw big shots, and I just think he's going to get tagged up. If he can drag Ige into a brawl, that could be something that he can. I mean, he was even landing a couple of big shots against Jair before he got knocked down in the third round. So he's got to make it a brawl. I don't think either man is going to try to grapple too much. But I think Ige is just going to pick him apart, and I think Pitbull's chin being gone is a little overstated. I think he's still kind of with it. So I do think this has a tendency to go to a decision, but I got to pick Ige here. I don't think at least there's another way to pick it. But Drake, is it you who has the weird flag to plant in this one? Oh, it's not. Well. Anyway, we'll let that guy go last then. Drake, how do you see this fight?
I can't even commend anybody that goes with Pitbull at this point, man. He's 38 years old. He's got nothing left. He is way too late to the UFC going against top tier talent. You know, you can say what you want about Ige and how many losses he's got in the UFC, and I'm going to read these off because all of these guys were ranked in the top 15. TKZ, Josh Emmett during that streak you just mentioned, that 7 knockdown streak. Evloev, who's ranked number 2 right now. Bryce Mitchell, who was ranked in the top 10 when he fought him. Diego Lopez, who just fought for the belt. And Lerone Murphy, who is now at number 7 and climbing to the top. Those are his losses in the UFC. That is some prime premier talent. And he looked good in almost all of those fights at times. So, you know, he came out, he looked great against Lopez in that short notice fight. He looked great against Woodson when he fought him. It was a slower paced fight, but he got it done. I think that he just picks Pitbull apart, and I think he finishes him.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely could finish. And the Woodson win, I think, is really because Woodson was streaking at the time. It really looked like he was coming into his own. And Ige, with some really pronounced height and reach advantages, came in there and stopped him. And we had seen Woodson before that stand up to some big punchers. So I really think that was an impressive win. And I definitely do like Ige quite a bit here. But there might be somebody who doesn't, and we're going to say hello to him now. Joey, how do you see this fight?
So, hot take. I do have a flag. It's not Dan Ige.
It's not Dan Ige.
It's Dan Ige. It's Patricio Pitbull. I'll say this. If you would have put Dan Ige in that Bellator time frame with Pitbull, I don't think Ige barely goes over 500. During that stretch. There's a good stretch of guys. I don't think Ige beats all of them.
I don't agree.
He'll get wins, but I don't think he goes over 500.
I think he gets 90% of them.
No, I don't.
There's a reason that Bellator died and UFC didn't.
I think that was just pure ownership. But hey. But,
yeah, no, they're just, I actually agree with Joey more so. I think the reason is more to do with power dynamics in the UFC. But that's all right. We can leave that talk a little bit later. Go back to the fights there, Joey.
But yeah, I think this is a good matchup for Pitbull. I do. Yeah. And I think you can bring out a good side of Pitbull. You know, you can get into a brawl. Outside of power, and it's either going to make me look real good, or if it doesn't go my way, it's going to make me look like a donkey. But I'm going to say this right now. I think Pitbull's better everywhere outside of power. Outside of power.
Well, I certainly doesn't have better footwork than Dan Ige.
I think he's going to cut Dan Ige off, throw a shitload of leg kicks, slow that work down. And look, he is a good grappler too. His takedowns are decent though, but Ige has questionable takedown defense. But if he gets him on the ground, I think he can control the hell out of Ige. Which that's a dream scenario where I think if he can get takedowns at will and control, I can slow down my breathing a little bit. But no, but I actually do like the Pitbull. Like I think he still has some decent matchups left in him.
He's only 33.
Pitbull?
Oh, no. I thought you were talking about Ige.
No. I'm talking about Pitbull. Like, I think Pitbull maybe has, like, maybe 2, maybe 3 good UFC fights left. If he does beat Ige, like I'm expecting.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so there's not a lot of fights where Ige is actually the bigger fighter, and he is in this fight.
Yeah.
He's got an inch, and he's got of height and 4 inches of reach. Do you think that plays a part?
A little bit. I think the leg kicks. Like, I actually think that's why I think when the leg kicks start coming from Pitbull, then he's going to slow down the movement. I think that's when you can see Pitbull explode in.
The problem is you go back and watch Ige's fights, and he's one of the best leg checkers in the game.
I think Pitbull's going to get it, though. I got it, bro.
I think you're just grasping.
I ain't grasping.
Look, part of it will make me very happy because of what I said in the intro here. But, yeah, I just can't see, like what something I said about the Yair fight was like if he could pressure him, cut him off, and throw. But the thing is, he doesn't pressure that much. If he pressured more at this stage of his career, I'd like it better. But if he's just going to stand in the middle and leave these guys room to maneuver the way he fights, I just don't know. But I don't know. Go ahead. Did you want to comment on that or?
Yeah. So pretty much I'm not trying to toot my own horn.
Go ahead.
My last Planet Flags, if you count PFL, been winning all dogs. And I've been telling Drake, I'm like, dog. And it's been like, Everyone was calling me crazy because I picked Walter Walker.
Yeah, yeah.
I had not really necessarily Drake. Drake, me and him had a different little back and forth. It wasn't too bad though. We saw like this could happen, that could happen. So,
that one was fine.
Yeah, that one was fine.
That one was fine.
I know a lot of people are saying you pick Peyton Talbot. You pick. I'm like Peyton.
Yeah,
you're gonna
I
see
was
on
Talbot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand the sentiment, but I just don't know at this point in his career. I'm rooting for him and you, but I'm just not sure I see it.
One last thing before we go to the next fight. One of his flags was also Chelsea Chandler.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That was the most. No, the worst part was I wasn't even watching the card. I went to a Slipknot concert, and all I heard, because I'm making burgers, I hear somebody said, going past me, man, Chelsea Chandler stinks. Whoever put money on her, I'm like, oh my God, did she really get her ass kicked like that?
Oh, that's funny.
Great. I'm like, how bad was the fight? He said, worst planet flag ever.
That's funny. That's funny. Hopefully this one goes a little better, but
can't get any worse.
Yeah, but we shall see. Okay, we are gonna move on from that fight though, and it is now Kevin Holland at 9,300 taking on Daniel Rodriguez at 6,900. Man, I commented coming in how many big favorites are there. Were more than even I had realized that when you stop and just count them all off. There are quite a few. It is Kevin Holland minus 600 and Daniel Rodriguez plus 425. And glory be, we have a reinvigorated Kevin Holland who actually looks interested in fighting again. Good for him and good for us if we're going to try to make some money on him. Some of that has to do with coming back down to welterweight where he's not going to get overwhelmed by size. But even some of those welterweight fights, like the Wonder Boy fight, he just looked disinterested, giving up on takedowns that were handed to him and, that kind of thing. But Holland has looked really good of late. And Daniel Rodriguez is like a plodding boxer. He's going to be really slow in there compared to Kevin Holland. He's going to be at a reach disadvantage. He's not a grappler, so he's going to just be on the end of all these punches. And I think Kevin Holland just knocks him out. I think this is a really good spot for it. So a couple of years ago, I never would have thought I'd be enthused about picking Kevin Holland again. Certainly not by finish, but I think he looks interested in fighting again, and for as long as he is in matchups like this, I think you got to go with it. But we will see what the boys think. Joey, I'm thinking that you might have a more standard pick on this fight, but let's hear what you got.
Oh, I 1,000,000% have a most standard pick on this fight. This is type of matchup for Holland to where he could finish this fight.
Yeah,
this is a Kevin Holland potential smash spot in this fight. I like D-Rod. I won't talk bad about D-Rod. D-Rod shows up to fight anybody. He doesn't care who you are, where you're from. He's going to bring a fight to you too. So this could be a sneaky good fight. But I do think at some point Holland's going to get D-Rod out of there.
Yeah, no, so do I. It's hard for me to imagine how D-Rod is going to get his fight, close the distance, and throw those shots. I think Kevin Holland is just going to have this all over the place at range. And again, as I said, he's not really a grappler, so I don't really know where he goes from there. I do think this is Kevin Holland's fight all the way, but we will see what Drake thinks. Drake, are you back on board with the Trailblazer? You are muted again, sir.
Yeah, it's because I'm making noise. If you recall UFC 316, I took Holland in that fight over Luque, and you were like, and that was when you just couldn't because of how he had been fighting. So that was one of the first fights I had taken Holland in a while because of just how he fights.
Yeah,
he looked phenomenal. He did great. I was super happy with it. I just want to point out that this is his. Let's see, we're 7 months into 2025. This is his fourth fight of 2025. That is just absolutely insane. And it's great for the sport. It's great for him. I think D-Rod, his prime is past. I think his time is coming, slowly to an end here. He's a great fighter. He still throws a lot of strikes. He averages 7 strikes per minute. But against a guy that's got a reach advantage, that's really difficult to, stay in the pocket. And Holland's not really a pocket fighter. So it's a really bad matchup for D-Rod. This should be Holland all day.
I agree. Yeah, super bad matchup. And I think you're actually getting plus money on that Holland KO. I think it's like plus 160 at last look. So I think maybe that might be one to look at if you are indeed looking. But right now we are going to, as I alluded to, the less than star-studded co-main event. In fact, this could be anywhere on the card lower than the main card, and you wouldn't really blink at it. It is Roman Kopylov at 8,900, taking out Paulo Costa at 7,300. Line on this fight, minus 230 Roman Kopylov, plus 195 Paulo Costa. And it's just difficult to we are well past the days of Borrachina going in there and just sort of wrecking guys as a like a terrifying prospect. He's just a guy who kind of stays on the back foot now, which was never him in the past. We saw it in the Strickland fight. We also saw it in the Robert Whittaker fight, even though he did have moments there. And I think Roman Kopylov is just a better boxer, a better front foot fighter, although not a great one in his own right. In fact, I think this one could be kind of boring just because I think both guys could just kind of be waiting their turn. And in that case, I wouldn't really want either man. Paulo Costa is still powerful, still quick. I just can't count on him to pull the trigger as much as he should. And for that reason, I'm going Kopylov, but definitely not really a targeted fight for me in DFS. We will see what the boys think. And I think we're starting with Drake for the co-main here. Drake, how you see this fight?
I am still not ever going to be a Costa fan. I just don't care for his personality or the way that he fights. I do, however, really enjoy watching Kopylov fight, and I like him. If you go back and if you watch his last like 5 fights, and you were to watch him consecutively, you see him get better in every fight, and I love that about him. And I love watching fighters progress like that. We also, over the last 2 fights, we've gotten to see somewhat of his ground game that you never get to see. And if he uses that in this fight, he should absolutely tear Costa up. The one great thing about Kopylov is not only does he throw a lot, he's very accurate. As far as striking goes, he's very timed. He's got phenomenal timing. He's got really good counters. Could he get knocked out? Absolutely. Costa's got power. We've all seen it. It's pretty insane. But, at this point, it's just, how much is he going to go for those knockouts? And I just don't think that he's going to. I think Kopylov wins this fight.
Yeah, I think it's Kopylov's fight as well. And definitely interested to see the approach he takes here if he will go for that grappling. Joey, how you see it?
Drake probably knows where I'm going for this one. I've only picked against Kopylov once, and I made Drake absolutely lose his shit because I picked Anthony Hernandez. He's like, "You're gonna pick Kopylov? That's your boy." I'm like, "No, I actually like Fluffy." He's like, "What?" I'm like, and hey, I was right about that pick. But ever since that Fluffy fight, Drake pointed out his overall game has evolved a lot. He's more aggressive with strikes. He's going to his ground game. And I don't think Costa is all that good on his back. He just stays on his back, allows to be controlled, allows to get ground and pound it. Roman Kopylov's takedown is half a takedown plus 240. And he's been showing takedowns.
Yeah.
And that's wild to me. Like, I'm probably going to play that plus 240 for a takedown. But DFS, I'm probably going to fade this fight because I think Roman's does mix it up. Maybe just has more control time if he does decide to go to the ground. And maybe he'll just do control over damage. So, yeah, I got Kopylov as a pick. I don't mind him as a parlay piece. It's like maybe it's a small two-legger or so. Maybe like him and Jimmy Crute. You can almost get like minus money.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's not bad. I was going to say, just breaking news as I look at Twitter here, Michael Chandler is tweeting at Conor McGregor, egging him on about certain pictures that were released and then saying that he wants to fight. And I guess Chandler's never going to let that go, which is kind of sad for him. But good news for us is that we have reached the main event, and we will go to it now. It is, as I said, the trilogy fight, 15 years in the making between Max Holloway at 8,200 taking on Dustin the Diamond Poirier at 8,000. Line on this fight, minus 135 for Holloway, plus 115 for Poirier. And it seems kind of weird to say about a guy who just got brutally knocked out in his last fight. But I think Max Holloway is really getting better and might be coming on to his best years here. Specifically, I think his defense is getting better. We saw it in the Justin Gaethje fight. We saw it a little bit even in the Ilya fight before his knockout. Like, I really like how he's taking a pivoting away and getting back to space now when he gets backed up, which is not something that we had seen before. And even the head movements improved. And there's one thing I never liked about Poirier that he's doing a lot more now that I noticed in the last couple of fights, which is that stupid reset he does after every exchange where he sort of pulls up his shorts. He does it all the time. And Max Holloway is just too good on the volume for Poirier to reset as much like that. I think Max Holloway can just sort of go downhill here. And, there's even something to be said for the fact that Dustin might sort of be past it going into his last fight here. I mean, yeah, he beat Saint-Denis, but he was taking a beating in that fight before that happened. Saint-Denis had his back triangles on the ground, and that was just not a good thing. He came back and won it. I think Max is just going to stay in there, land the harder shots. He's really filled out at lightweight now. In their first fight, it was very clear he could not take those shots at Dustin. I think he can take them now, and I think he can do a lot of damage of his own. I like Max a lot here. For prize picks, I noticed the lines are crazy. They're both over 100, both of them. I don't think this fight gets there. I think Max is going to stop Dustin. That's my play here. I think Max is going to show that he is the fighter that's going to stay at lightweight and maybe do some interesting things here. So my pick is Max Holloway all the way. But we will start the main event with Joey T. Joey, how do you see this fight?
So I will never put any hate on Dustin Poirier. He's been in so many great fights in the UFC. My favorite, him and Hooker fight, that was absolute gold.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that I will always stay away from, no matter who it is. If I hear the word retire, meaning you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I got to stay away from it. I got Holloway here, and as you said, Dustin's going to go out on his shield in this fight. He is in his backyard. He knows this is his last fight. I think all hell is going to break loose for both fighters, and I do think Holloway is going to end up really slumping Poirier here. And
yeah,
if you notice the first fight, Holloway was just a wild Hawaiian striker, got taken down, got beat. The first fight at 155, he didn't have the muscle that he has now. And I think that overall better defense, as you said, and the power he is bringing up to 155, I think he's going to slump Poirier probably inside the first 3.5 rounds.
Yeah, that second fight, it was almost like every time Dustin hit him, he hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's going to be the case this time, and I really think that's going to change the dynamic. But we will see what Drake thinks. Drake, what do you think about the main event here?
I think that I'm incredibly sad that it's Dustin's last fight. That's what I think.
It is.
He is undoubtedly and absolutely one of my favorite fighters. I will probably watch several of his past fights before his final fight tomorrow. That said, I do have Holloway. I think that the volume is just going to be way too much for Dustin in this one. You guys have already alluded to the muscle mass and gains that he's made since coming up to 155. Chris, you mentioned him losing to Topuria. At this point, I think we all have to admit that Topuria is way better than we all thought that he was, and he just somehow keeps getting better. So I don't even, consider that loss much of anything at this point. Holloway, I mean, he should dominate this fight from, start to finish. And what I love to see, oh man, I hate saying this, but I would love to see Poirier, get a knockout win here to go out. But I don't think that it happens. And I think that it's Holloway's fight to lose.
Yeah, I'd agree. And when you talk about that Elite Poirier fight, I mean, it has been almost a year now. So, I mean, it's not like he's rushing back to the cage. It's not like we should have to really worry about residuals here. Max is only 33. I mean, he has taken a lot of damage, but he's not long in the tooth. So I do think that he'll be okay coming off of that knockout. And I do think I'm going to make it unanimous and agree that Max should not only win, but probably should finish. But that is our breakdown of the fights, and we thank you all for watching. Right now, if you are not familiar with the show, what we're going to do is called Hot Takes, which is we find a line that we think is a little too juiced up. We think it might come in a little more frequently than the odds suggest, and we hand it to you as our gift to you for watching the show. I only have one play that I can make given how this went, and it's Lucas Bresky winning by KO TKO at plus 360. I do think that is sufficiently juiced, and I think that comes in probably way more often than that. So plus 360 Lucas Bresky. If there's any in the chat, feel free to put it there. We will put them on the air and read them on the show. But for now, boys, do you have any hot takes for me?
So I've got two of them here. One of them is relatively easy. It's just Danny Ige wins by KO, TKO, DQ, and it's plus 325. Yeah. And then my other one is a little sneakier, and it alludes back to the Fugit fight. I've got Adam Fugit wins inside the distance at plus 650. I just worry about that injury. I don't like when serious injuries happen because it causes a lot of concern. It causes rust. It causes hesitations. It causes a lot of problems. And, he may be past all of that. It may not be a thing, but at plus 650, it's really not a bad bet. No,
yeah, I agree. Playing that injury angle with the big underdog, I think is nice, and some nice lines to come with it. So definitely. What about you, Joe? You have a hot take for us?
I do like 2 submission props. If you want to parlay them both, they're plus 650. I like Bruno Ferreira by submission. I think the second this fight goes to the ground, McVeigh's in a world of hell. And the second one is Jimmy Crute, the submission prop plus 150. The second he takes old boy down, the fight's going to be over. Yeah. He's going to try to get back up, and he's probably going to give up his neck. But yeah, the parlay plus 650. If you want to do individual, Ferreira plus 200 and Crute plus 150.
I just want to point out that I do like the prop you mentioned before, Joey.
Was it Kopylov takedown?
Kopylov takedown to get one takedown plus. It's plus 200 at what I'm looking at. But I mean, he attempted 5 takedowns and got one of them against Chris Curtis, and I'd venture to say that Chris Curtis has better takedown defense than Costa. Yep. I think that bet is just solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one for sure. But so those are the hot takes, and that was our UFC 318 Fight IQ preview. Thank you all so much for watching. Joey, thanks for stepping in on the short notice here, giving us all the good content. We definitely appreciate it. So that is going to be it for us. We will see you on the next one. And until then, best of luck in your contest. We will be on Twitter recapping the fights, knocking it around with each other, giving each other a hard time. So definitely stop by, say hi, and otherwise enjoy the fights, and we will see you on the next one.